In this episode, I'm going to talk about dealing with zits in the 80s. But before we get going, go ahead and hit that like button like Conan the Destroyer. Just like every kid in every generation, dealing with zits is a troublesome experience. And you know what? There's really just no way to get past it. You just have to deal with it. And here's some of my experiences growing up in the 80s, specifically in middle school, where I started getting my first batch of zits. So it was 7th grade, and I remember starting off the year, had no zits at all. And of course, zits are pimples, right? In the 80s, we called them zits. And everything was fine, but a few months into the school year, I started getting just a few popping up. And it was just like, okay, what are these? I noticed I was going through puberty, and specifically this one weekend, my mom takes me out, go down to the mall, put down the credit card. Credit cards were the huge craze in the 80s, right? Oh, you can just pay on credit. I got all kinds of new threads, and yeah, I was ready to go to school on that Monday. But Sunday, I broke out big time. I started having them all over the place, big red ones. Of course, it wrecks your self-esteem. At that time in middle school, you're getting into girls, and you don't want to have all of these pimples over your face or these zits. And I remember walking into school that Monday morning. Yeah, I had some new threads, which was cool, but no one's ever seen me with pimples on or zits. And I had to walk through middle school. And when you started the school day, you had to walk through all crowds, all classes lined up outside our trailer that we had. Our school is under construction, so they put all the middle school students down in these trailers, and they all just lined up to one another, across one another. And then in the center there, we had all of the lunch tables and all that. And then, of course, leading up into that, you had the parking lot where parents would drop you off. So when my parents dropped me off, it was the one time that I actually had my parents drop me off. Normally I would walk to school, but for some reason, I think I was late or whatever, so they dropped me off, or my mom dropped me off on the way to work, or on the way to her work. As I'm walking through, I just see all eyes on me. And I wasn't an extremely popular kid. I was somewhere in the middle. I mean, I wasn't a loner. People knew me, and I remember just people were like, whoa, what's all over his face? And that was just, I was so self-conscious of that. And I was walking through and, meet up with my friends, and especially seeing all the girls look at me. This isn't good. And just throughout the day, your friends are actually pretty honest with you. They're like, yeah, what's that shit on your face? What is that? I'm like, oh, zits, right? It's finally happening. And you would see other students that would have that as well. But within my group of friends, I was the only one that had them. So that sucked. Now, my parents just told me, hey, don't worry about your appearance. This isn't a fashion show. You're going to school to learn. So put your head down and focus on your schoolwork. But I tell you, long division and book reports just had no competition, or just stood no chance to the pretty girl sitting next to me in class. And that's all I thought about is, oh man, she's so pretty, but look at me, I have all these zits on my face. And yeah, I tried to put my head down and do the schoolwork, but my mind was more focused on, is she gonna notice me? What if she doesn't look at me? If she doesn't look at me, is it because I got the zits on my face? And you just start going through all of that stuff as a young adolescent teenager. Now, the products in the 80s, it was all hype. We had the benzoyl peroxide, we had the OxyClean, or like Oxy pads, Stridex, of course, and these are like the little pads that would clean your face. And then we would have Clearasil, and you'd have Neutrogena. So the biggest thing, which I think was a fallacy, and I'll tell you why, having 2 daughters that I've raised, and they went through that, but it was always a common perception that the reason you have zits is because your skin wasn't clean. And they would have all these products, so you want to clean your skin, make it squeaky clean. Your sebaceous glands are secreting more oil, and the dirt's getting clogged in there, and it's just causing like a little minor abscess basically on your skin. And I would always clean my skin, and even my other friends, as they started getting zits. Clean your skin, always washing your face 10 times a day, washing your face. You would bring Stridex pads in a little Ziploc baggie, like a sandwich bag, and go out to the corner of your locker area or go to the bathroom and you have it in your pocket and you're trying to clean your face with that. No matter what we did and what I did, that did not work. So what we resorted to and what I resorted to was covering them up. Now, it wasn't common knowledge like today to use specialized makeup, or if you're a boy, you'd want to use girls' makeup to cover it up, or your parents' makeup. At least when I grew up, we just didn't even think about that. So 2 options that we would use to cover up our zits is the first one, for me, most of my zits were on my forehead. I mean, I had it all over my forehead, bad, kids are so cruel, especially in the 80s, right? They were just ruthless and savage. But if you had a lot of zits, you were called pizza face. And I was called like a slice of pizza on my forehead. Right? It was just bad. So I would grow out my bangs. I had long bangs, and I would try to cover them up. And overall, that would work until the wind blew. And then next thing you know, right, you just see all the zits there. So I tried to at least put it down. Try to put a little bit of my mom's Aquanet hairspray, the big pink can. Put a little bit on there, just where if it did move, it kind of moved in a big chunk, whatever. It wouldn't disperse and reveal my zits. Now, the other way is you can buy, back then, I don't even know if they have it today, maybe they do, but it was Clearasil, but it had a pigment in it, and it was like a tan pigment, and it was supposed to cover up your pimples. And overall, that did work, because you know what? It's better just to have an unmatched pigment blotch on your skin. At least it resembled somewhat, but you did not want to have those big redness, bumps and splotches all over your face. So at least having some of that made it blend in a little bit better. But really, it just looked like you had a bunch of like tinted cake batter, and put it on your pimple there. And yeah, you'd still see the bump, but again, you wouldn't see the redness. So it did work, but it just really wasn't as effective, and you were still self-conscious. And when I had kids, my daughters, who are now in their 20s, they went through all that as well, and they had some bad bouts of acne, and the term zits just wasn't used. Pimples, whatever. It was mostly just acne was the term that was getting thrown around. Yeah, we had over-the-counter stuff. Still didn't work that well. There was some prescription medications that were really strong, though, and thinned your skin. Yeah, we kind of stayed away from that. But what I found out after doing lots of research on it, because, I went through that, and I didn't want my daughters to go through that. So let me just delve into it and see, what is the cause? What's the root cause of pimples and acne, and how can you prevent those from happening? A lot of the medications that we did prescribe them was reactive, right? You get pimples, and it was supposed to, you put stuff on them and it takes them down. That actually did work, but then a new one would pop up, right? It's like playing whack-a-mole on your skin. Get one pimple down, another one pops up. Hit that one, another one pops up. So we wanted to be proactive. And what worked was controlling the hormones. And with my daughters there, back in the day we basically had some pills that controlled their hormones. And you know what? That's what worked. All of their pimples just went away. So we just kept them on that. And I wish, we had that back then, because, I spent a fortune on over-the-counter products. But if I really would have just controlled my hormones, I believe I wouldn't have had as much breakouts. And towards the end of my 7th grade school year, out of nowhere, I just no rhyme or reason, my zits just started disappearing. And this was, again, towards the end of the school year, maybe around May or so, June. That's when we're getting ready to go on summer vacation. And it was just like over a weekend, my skin just started clearing up. Don't know why. And yeah, I remember going to school, and I used to have, you know, a side part, and you kind of feather your hair down over the front of your forehead there, at least for me, to cover up all my zits. I was like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. I'm gonna part my hair in the center, just like 80s style, make it look good, carry my little brush and comb, full on part, feather it back. Yeah, in style, ready for the chick.